Hi there, I'm Molly,
And I'm Jamie. We're the owners of Hired Hand Software.
and this is season 6 of our From the Pasture podcast. For more than 15 years, we've been helping breeders promote their pedigree livestock with our easy to use, animal management driven website software.
Each week, we bring you stories from the pasture, breeding philosophies, ranch traditions, cattle knowledge, and conversation with folks using Hired Hand to power their livestock marketing.
So settle in for today's episode of From the Pasture with Hired Hand. Today's episode is a really special one because we're sitting down with a couple who have built something deeply intentional, where land, food, and care all exist side by side, but each with a clear purpose. We're joined today by Chef Taylor Montgomery and Fran Montgomery, the husband and wife team behind Montgomery Sky Farm and Final Run Animal Rescue. Thank you both for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Montgomery Sky Farm was established in 2018 by Taylor, who brings more than 25 years in the culinary world and is a recent James Beard Award nomination for Best Chef Southeast. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And Fran, whose background spans over 2 decades in veterinary medicine. Together, they've created a place where regenerative farming, chef-driven dining, community experiences, and a dedicated animal rescue all live on the same land, connected, but each serving a distinct mission. Taylor, Fran, thank you again so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
For our listeners who are just discovering you for the first time, can you walk us through everything that exists in your ecosystem, the farm, the food, the experiences, the rescue, and just how it all fits together on your land?
Absolutely. I think when people first arrive, it can certainly feel like a lot because it is a lot. On the land, we have Montgomery Sky Farm, which is primarily a regenerative working farm. We do chef-driven dining. We are very intentional about teaching people where their food comes from and really just being able to experience food in a slower, more connected way. And then you have Final Run Rescue, which is our rehabilitation animal rescue, but also serves as a hub for community education. And so I think both of these entities exist side by side because the land allows them both to do so. It allows their missions to do their work simultaneously. And the common thread here is care. So care for the land, care for food, where it comes from, how it's grown, care for animals. But they certainly each piece has its own purpose.
And it was never. We always had a vision for this place, and um, we try to keep our blinders on and stay on that path. But life happens, and it's grown in different ways that we never thought it would, in a good way. So whether it's the full circle of the cultivation of heritage heirloom vegetables, or taking care of the animals that are in need. Actually, I have an agreement with those animals. We'll take care of them as long as they provide me with enough compost to grow what I want to grow. So it's there's a story behind us that's kind of funny too, if you want to hear that.
Of course, always.
All right, so I was actually working at a private club here in Western North Carolina, and as an executive chef, and there was a new hire, and it was Fran. She was the executive assistant to the CEO, and one day she came to me, and she didn't know at all that I had purchased this old farmhouse and the beginnings of Montgomery Sky Farm. She had asked me if I'd like to go visit her cow. So that's a question that you really don't ever get asked. But it was a Friday night service. I never missed those, and I missed this one. And I met her cow, Millie. Now, she lived in a townhome at the time. I was like, how does she have a cow? So she was leased land for her cow. And then, we came together, and we had common beliefs and work ethic, and loved animals and growing food. And it just blossomed from that.
Millie is still with us today.
Yeah, our first cow.
I love it. I love it. Well, we're kind of going to break down your whole operation here as we go along in today's podcast. So I can't wait to hear more stories and, definitely learn more about each aspect. One question I have before we get into that is, Taylor, you come to this through food and dining. Fran, you come through veterinary medicine and animal care. Can you tell me just a little bit, kind of a brief overview before we really dig into the details of how those two very different backgrounds shape what this place has ultimately become?
Well, I think if we add in there that that I started growing. Well, I've had gardens almost all my adult life, and the reason I started growing was because some of these heritage heirlooms are expensive and hard to come by. So which leads us to the farm, and we're able to do that and put it on people's plates. But then uh, the vet medicine, plays a part as well with animal care, and I'll let Fran talk to you a little bit more about that.
I think it's really connecting both ideologies of trying to live intentionally, but also living in a way that advocates for humans, for the land, how we treat it, and for the animals is kind of what we call this full circle effect. So mutually shared passions, I guess.
That's great. Well, let's since we kind of touched on the land, let's start there, and we'll start with how the farm, and how with the farm and how it feeds the kitchen. So I keep saying that wrong. I'm sorry. Regenerative farming is kind of the foundation. It's one of the cores of what you do there. Taylor, what does that look like day to day on the farm, and why is that important to you to do it in that specific way?
So when we first, and this is the wrong way, broke ground on our, I guess, agricultural dealings here at the farm, we had some really nice neighbors that had been farming this land for a long time. Back when it was tobacco primarily, into where it was tomatoes. So uh, they showed me how they were doing it, and it was productive for them. Now they use the soil just as a substrate that they could you could grow anything in that soil if you put enough synthetic fertilizer down the drip tape and grow your vegetables that way. Now that's not sustainable, even not close to being regenerative. So regenerative for me is we're gonna make it better than how we found it. So that means that we have to take care of the soil, and we have to get rid of the tiller. We have to start uh, giving it the nutrients it needs. We have to do that with cover crop and um, composting animal manure, and getting that stuff back into the soil ecosystem. Um, so regenerative for the soil is what that means for me. But I also think that we need to have a regenerative mindset on the way we live. So I'm trying to regenerate some of these heritage heirloom vegetables that we're losing, and losing not only flavor but diversity. The monoculture that we're dealing with in agriculture today is causing soil degradation, and you know just because something doesn't travel well and it takes more than one pass to harvest doesn't mean we get rid of it altogether. Because if we get rid of that, then we get rid of our safety in that diversity, and we also get rid of our heritage in that. Um, so regenerative mindset, even in cooking.
Are you able to share with us some of those heritage vegetables that you're trying to bring back?
We have like a Afghan purple carrot that is really cool. Um, Something called a Walla Walla onion. Uh, Also, you know, a couple runner beans that we're trying to bring back. And we also have some success stories, and not from our success, but on our dealings with the Seed Savers Exchange in Decorah, Iowa. Now we grow something that's called a hidatsa bean that was on the endangered list, and they, through their mission, have brought it back. So I like to tell those types of stories when I put it on your plate, and you'd be surprised how wide-eyed people are that we're losing those vegetables. Statistics of 90% of our vegetable varieties are gone, because they don't travel well because of mechanized and commercial farming. So it's I will ramble on this topic. I've become quite a plant nerd and someone who really believes that we're not going in the right direction.
Have you always been a plant nerd? Are you self-taught in a lot of these areas?
It's mostly self-taught. I read a lot of books and do a lot of research, and I have some heroes out there that have been doing it a lot longer than I have, and so just to understand the process of growing a plant or a plant that grows vegetables, and at what point in that growth cycle can you harvest the most flavor, whether that's intensity through the bolt of the plant or the delicate of the baby greens or the baby form of that plant, has just opened my whole world as a chef. And I would love to see and be able to have more chefs here to see that.
Is that something that you offer or have in the plans to offer, where those who are interested can come and visit?
It is a growth stage for us, and we are practicing this, and we want to implement those programs here with kind of a chef's garden, where I can put those heritage heirlooms right in front of them. We can taste them together. We can cook them together, and then they can go out and into their restaurants and they can also put it on their plates. And it's not enough just to grow these things, to share seeds. I mean, that is wonderful, and I applaud those who do that. But we have to consume it. We have to get to the masses, and I think we do that by the awareness. And as food service professionals, chefs, cooks, sous chefs, whatever, the more of them that know, the more of them that are using these products and putting it in front of the consumer, the better we'll be.
Well, I'm not a chef, and that gets me excited. So hopefully we have a lot of takers on that.
Hope so.
Going back to I just want to touch on this a little bit more. What is your role in the day to day? So how are you, ensuring that those varieties that you're raising are coming back the way you'd like? You mentioned something about the exact right time to harvest certain types, before you plate them for folks. Tell me just a little bit about kind of your day-to-day hands-on part of the operation.
Well, and I guess I can give you an example. Currently, we have seeds going in the greenhouse for a spring crop, and then we'll succession plant that as long as we can, and then we'll go in with our summer vegetables, and all throughout this, you've got to plan way out, and it's not like in the kitchen where you get there's a prep list, you have to execute that prep list and then have service. It's when we're finished growing, we're not finished growing. It's planning, it's composting, it's taking care of the beds, it's what worked well and what didn't work well, and so day to day for me, and we share this responsibility. It's not all me. I'm out there mucking stalls with her, and she's putting seeds in dirt with me. So it's a joint thing. We both believe in it, and so there's something to do every day. and we don't get to everything every day. It's difficult to juggle growing, taking care of animals at a rescue, and trying to create a culinary and educational program that is feasible. It's a lot, but we
100% involvement every day.
Yeah, every day. So I'd like to say that we allocate time for each individual thing, but sometimes one thing takes longer than the next, and we find ourselves doing things with headlamps on, and but we do our best, and eventually we'd like to get a team that supports us in our vision of what we're trying to do here, and grow it. Like I said, we're always growing.
Well, one of the things you touched on is that you definitely have to plan ahead. It's not, kind of fly by your seat sort of things. And I think with that, with your location and the planning, obviously seasons are going to play a role in that. And you mentioned on your website that seasonality guides, everything that you do, everything that you serve, harvest and planting. Just speak a little bit more to how you let the land dictate your menu, in that role.
Well, you won't see asparagus on my plates right now. It I think that, well, I know that we should be consuming what's in season. So it's, you'll see snap peas and asparagus and spring radish and baby sorrel and all kinds of greens and legumes that are early on. Moving into everybody's favorite season, where there's all kinds of tomatoes and peppers and so you won't see it on a menu if it's not in season. I try to plant as many perennials as I can, so I don't have to plant them again, and we get to move on to a new project. But it's not just the whole vegetables of the season. We grow summer and winter savory and English thyme and rosemary and a whole lot of herbs, and we can't grow citrus here, obviously, in Western North Carolina, but there's a way to get that citrus. We have wild sumac that grows here. We have lemon, like I mentioned, lemon sorrel, the green that doesn't need a vinaigrette, and all these little additives like agastache, which is a flower that tastes like honeysuckle and mint. It's so that the season shapes what the menu is in front of our guests. And we love it because that's how it should be.
That I found really interesting. I wish that we were closer so I could come and, taste all of these things I've been reading about as we prepare for the podcast. But is it true that you harvest some of your ingredients like hours before they're served?
Yes, some by necessity. Sometimes I get a little behind, so like everybody, and I'm running out there, and I have a bag, and I'm picking everything. But I tell people that the pick list, I have a pick list and a prep list for these dinners, and the pick list sometimes is larger than the prep list. We manipulate some of the vegetables to make them awesome on the plate, but then some are just fresh and untreated, and meaning we don't cook them. They go on there as I pick them. Sometimes I'll forget to pick something on the pick list, and I step outside of where we're serving, and it's right there in front of me. And it's like a Willy Wonka of agriculture. I love it.
I get back to, you mentioned where you're serving, so I want to talk about that. But first, I have a question. I've been wanting to ask it for like the past 3, and I keep putting on a hold. Fran, do you have a favorite dish that he cooks that you just would recommend to everyone?
Gosh, I think that's a really tough question.
That's a loaded question.
That's a loaded question. I think you give him, I love his ability to take greens, and it could be a standard collard. It could be something really cool that we're growing. Just the way he's able to braise things is incredible, and the amount of flavor that goes into them, but also the amount of creativity is something I think makes Taylor super unique. We have coined him the culinary wizard here, and he laughs at us for that. But his ability to take flavor profiles and mesh them together, I don't know that I have a favorite dish.
Good answer. Good answer.
They're all pretty awesome. Yeah.
I'm picturing a wizard's hat instead of a chef's hat, and that's
Yeah.
going to be my visual for the rest of the recording. Well, going back to how you mentioned, just stepping outside and picking a few things, to serve it helped folks visualize where you serve the meals in relation to, where you're growing the ingredients, how the farm is laid out. Talk me through that a little bit.
Well, I try to plant, edibles everywhere. So, to be able to walk from the back door of our house to where we're serving, and I want to have a salad if I want it. But our main growing is across the road, I would say, and there we have about, I'd say, 4 acres that we're growing on right now. But behind where people come to dine, there's a culinary herb garden and perennial garden. So, up there I'll have lovage and chives and fresh parsley and herbs, but then also we'll have rhubarb and asparagus, and you'll trip over a bed of salad burnet and dianthus that's also an edible floral. And so it's all around us, and almost to a permaculture kind of existence. The big guys like the tomatoes and the peppers, cucumbers, okra, things like that need some space. We'll go across the street. So
we often explain our property as a 3-track layout. So we've got our home base where our barn is. That's where we do our dinners out of. But we also have the valley, which serves as our main ag hub. Our rescue barn is there. And then we also have our market. We often will do some small culinary things on the market deck as well. So it's kind of a larger scale as far as how it's laid out, but we try to utilize all components. We've done dinners just out in the garden, set up tables out in our actual growing field. And so we feel like we're not necessarily limited to just one space. We try to utilize a lot of it.
And you've kind of coined these dinners or the certain areas chef's table. Is that right?
Yeah, the chef's table or the tasting table, or it. I guess it depends on how we're pitching it that time for the dinner. Yeah.
So how long has that been a part of your overall farm operation?
I want to say 5 or 6 years. It was tough because Taylor was in commercial restaurants up until 2024. And so, although
July, yeah.
the farm was on the back burner the entire time, slowly growing as he navigated that full-time career. And so we've just slowly built it. And as of 2024, late summer, he came home, and I think we always had this dream. It was called Operation Bring Taylor Home because we wanted to launch a private dining series off of our property. But we had slowly been testing the waters for, I would say, the last 5 or 6 years.
And it was we had good support, and then Mother Nature said, "You're going to slow down," and then we picked it back up, and all this was happening. So and I'll cut to the chase. The last 5 years, 4.5 years, I was working at a restaurant in Greenville, which is an hour and a half away. So 3-hour commute and long days. But at the same time, we were trying to build this place so that I could step away. You have to be able to pay your bills at the end of the day, and so we kind of took that leap, and it was a scary thing, and but it shows promise.
So what made you want to bring people to the land instead of just serving the food, back in the city or something like that?
That was because I wanted to show people how they could eat, and how they should eat, and what we're losing, and not only the produce, but the land. And it was a hard transition for me. It was, after 25 years of being in that commercial setting, to coming home and not having everything that I did before, to execute these dinners. And you know what? I was kind of angry for the first 6 months, and frustrated, until I started to see the big picture of what we can offer here at the farm. We're not a restaurant. We do private dining, um, which is stop and go. It's not the consistency of being open 6-7 days a week, but that allows us to put our hands in the soil. That allows us to take care of the animals that we have here at the rescue, uh, and really put it all um, in place the right way. So um, I'm very happy that Fran and I are doing what we're doing, because it's not just the four walls of a building. It's not just a restaurant. We're trying to make a difference, and regenerate the way people think.
What do you hope that your guests walk away thinking or feeling after they experience a meal with you?
Well, we want them to tell their friends, but we also want them to have a better understanding of what we've been talking about, um, the taking care of the soil, to bringing nutrients back to the soil, so the vegetables are also dense with nutrition. Um, that we need to take care of not only the soil, but you know, um, livestock aren't pets, and to see the struggles of those animals um, being remedied and regenerated. Uh, so when they walk away from Montgomery Sky Farm, I want them to see a way of living intentionally, with purpose, and we really want to share that with them.
One last question before we talk a little bit more about the animals. You were recently nominated for Best Chef Southeast, which is a huge honor. Congratulations again.
Thank you.
So, at the time that we're recording this podcast, it's early February. And I'm just wondering, did that recognition change anything for you and Fran, or did it simply kind of give you affirmation that this slower, more intentional approach to people's food is really resonating in that area?
I think that the nomination is great, and it was, like I said, completely unexpected. Uh, and the to see it on the screen next to these chefs that are from Atlanta and Charleston and Raleigh and Charlotte, and to think our little farm here in Leicester could be that impactful, was humbling, to say the least. And um,
I think it definitely reaffirms that we're doing the right thing. We're on the right path. And especially after Western North Carolina faced Hurricane Helene, it was a little bit of a challenge of, are we pursuing the right dream? Do we go back to just chasing a paycheck? And definitely reaffirms the fact that we are on the right path.
Well, are you both ready to shift gears a little bit here and talk about some of the animals?
sure.
Let's do it.
All right. So, Fran, we actually met you and got to know you through your Highland cattle when
Yes.
we first started working together. So, how is it that you originally connected with Highlands, and what role do they play in the farm today?
So I got into Highland cattle about 10 years ago now. I made a really good connection with a woman who's now a very good friend. Her name is Emily, who has been super impactful in the breed and raising awareness for them, and making sure that we don't lose diversity of genetics. And so I just was always fascinated by them, how they maneuver on the land, their role as an animal, from a farming perspective. I admired, and they're also beautiful. And so I got my first Highland Millie, who I attribute all of this fast forward a decade to, where we are today. Thankfully, he said yes to coming to meet her. And they serve such a huge purpose. We don't consume any of our animals on our property, but that doesn't mean they don't play a role in what we're doing. And so we're very intentional in how we utilize them. Our herd of Highlands certainly helps with pasture rotation. Their manure is huge as far as putting a compost program in place. We actually do date nights. We'll take some wine and go scoop cow patties out of the pasture.
Sounds so
Doesn't sound like a great date, but
If you're looking for a date night, it's a great option. But I guess I never envisioned that a love for livestock would lead us here. So it's pretty cool to be able to use them full circle now, as part of the operation. And people, of course, love coming to see them, love coming to enjoy them. And they're just such a beautiful ancient heritage breed.
So, farm tours are a big part of what you offer. What do visitors usually find most surprising once they're walking the land with you?
I think they're always surprised at the amount of sheer work that is involved with owning and operating a working farm. And it's something that we preach. So we were trying to be intentional when we launched the farm visits or farm tours. We're not a petting zoo. We launched them to really educate people on what it takes to have a farm, whether you're interested in the agricultural side or you're interested in just the in and outs of operating a working farm. It has allowed us to really educate the public and then to also increase awareness for the amount of animals that just need rehabilitation, come from neglectful homes. So it's pretty cool. It's kind of become a fully immersed educational experience.
for us too, all the time.
What other breeds do you have besides the Highland?
So, not part of our rescue, we have the herd of Highlands. We also have Valley black-nosed sheep. We were the first farm in the Southeast to acquire one, thanks to some individuals who trusted us with them. So we call them our preservation programs, and they're awesome too.
So, tell me a little bit about the Field and Creek Market. What was your vision behind creating that as an on farm market, and how has your community responded?
I think with the market, we've learned over the last several years, we've had to diversify our model. And that means we can't just grow tomatoes. We can't just grow really beautiful heirloom varieties of produce, and we can't just have animals. And so we wanted to really launched the market as a way to give back to our community. In the aftermath of Helene, we very quickly realized that access to healthy food, especially where we live in our surrounding communities, is more scarce. And so we were hopeful that by being able to have a market on property and showcase the food that we grow, it's coming directly out of the soil, it's super nutrient dense. We wanted a direct extension of us into the community. And so the hope was that they would support it. And it opened in September, so it's relatively new, but we're
Yeah,
very excited to see the community support it.
yeah,
So
it's another outlet to share the produce uh, that we're losing, but also it unless you're from a lineage of farmers or you get a job with a commercial outfit, it's hard to make a living or have a startup farm. Uh, um, so, like she said, you have to diversify. So now we have the culinary program, the agricultural program, and the little market. Um, and we'll keep adding as we need to make sure that we can continue doing what we're proud of our mission.
It's also allowed us to build relationships with community farmers for things that we don't carry. So I mentioned we don't consume the animals on our property, um, especially the rescues, but we have been able to make relationships with generational farmers who carry really awesome, clean meats. So the market has been a great avenue for that also.
One of the other ways that you've diversified is having different events on the farm besides the dinners. Tell me a little bit about what those events are and the role that they play in the farm.
I think we're constantly trying to reinvent the wheel of bringing people out here in a way that's educational. So we do a lot of animal centered activities. Like for Valentine's Day, for example, you can come snuggle a rescue donkey who has only known neglect its entire life. And that helps kind of fundraise for the rescue. And so we're always looking at ways, like I said, whether you are a culinary enthusiast, whether you love agriculture, or whether you just love animals and want to find a way to give back, those events definitely help us. And
But there's some events that we do and we've done for a while now that Fran started around the holidays. That we do Easter, and we have an Easter bunny here, and we have a Easter egg hunt, and
Halloween.
Fran deals with that one, and I get up on the hill and watch the masses of children, get ready to run, and it is a spectacle to see once we open that gate. But um, she's done a great job with uh, making Christmas very special here. We've watched some children grow up, um, and it's been super endearing, and we've made some really good friends and kind of extended our family. It's been a great thing to see and be involved with.
Let's talk a little bit about the animal rescue. It's called Final Run Animal Rescue, right?
Yep, that's it.
So it kind of has a separate mission from the farm. Just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we launched Final Run several years ago as a means to give neglected animals a final and forever home to run free. Um, and of course, with my background, it was really crucial that we focus on the ones that are usually left behind or their medical issues are too complex, and other rescues can't afford or aren't able to help them. And so we've really just curated a space where we live intentionally alongside of them. We rehabilitate them, and we basically let them live out their lives and just be free. And it- really, the goal was to create a program where animals that had come from less than desirable backgrounds could learn to trust again. And it's such a special relationship to be able to show people that as it progresses. It's just really special.
So did you kind of feel like you just had a calling to add that to the farm? Is that something when Taylor mentioned you all had the vision from the start, was that always going to be a part of it?
I think I grew up always knowing that if I could find a farm or find enough land, that was the dream. Um, of course, I grew up bringing in every animal I could find outside in the house, much to my parents' dismay. And of course, working in the veterinary field, I've always loved the journey it takes taking an animal that has been not given the best care and watching that transformation happen. And I've just always marveled at it. And so it's really special that we've been able to find a place that can house both passions. Because at the end of the day, that's really what it is. We've been fortunate enough to be able to merge our passions here. And we definitely call it the passion project of a lifetime. So
I would imagine that you have some really sad stories and probably also some very uplifting stories. If you had to find a middle ground and just tell me about some of the average days in the rescue, just walk me through some of the day-to-day highlights or the day-to-day happenings to help folks understand the ins and outs a little bit more.
I think there's a lot of behind the scenes that maybe isn't always seen on social media platforms. And that could be starting the day with making sure every stall, every run in is clean. Having a rescue means having to accept the fact that your life is surrounded by a lot of poop all of the time. And so cleanup is a huge part of what we do, making sure buckets, troughs are clean, fresh water is out, dietary needs and medical needs are met. There's a lot of paperwork, phone calls, emails, intake requests, fundraising needs. It never really stops. It's an ongoing process, but we tend to wake up and ensure that the animals are taken care of first and foremost. And once their needs are met, we kind of shift gears to all of the other things.
Right, right. And it doesn't matter what the weather is. For example, we're going out. We don't have electric to where we could float water heaters and watering troughs at some of the locations, and we're out there with 3-pound hammers, busting 4 inches of ice off their waters twice a day now with this last front that came in. It doesn't, if we get a foot of snow, we have to feed the cattle. It's sometimes overwhelming, and for me, sometimes you question it, and then you see what you're doing, and then it all makes sense.
I feel like with everything you have going on, you both definitely, like you've touched on a few times, have to be passionate. You have to feel that calling, in your gut or in your heart to really stick with it. Because just having one of the things that you've talked about is a lot. Just the crop or just the animals, or just hosting events. But to do it all in succession, time and time again, it's definitely takes dedication.
But the support and the people that are kind of rally behind us is very heartwarming, and it was unexpected. And like I said, we've made some really good friends that help us when they can. We don't ask them to. They tell us they're going to.
I think what's really special too is we get to live doing what we love. It's very rare you meet people or you talk to people and they love their job, they love what they're doing, and it's pretty cool. We've been able to take our passions and make a living or sustain a living off of it. And I think that definitely fuels the really hard days.
Well, if someone wants to help the rescue specifically, what are some ways that they can either get involved if you accept volunteers or through donations of products or monetary donations?
We definitely do volunteers. We have a volunteer program that starts typically early spring through the summer into the fall. But if they wanted to help, our website allows them to make a donation. But you can also shop our wish list. So it's finalrunrescue.org. We've got an Amazon and a Chewy wish list, and people will often send us medical supplies or feed that we need. Or if they come and fall in love with an animal, there is an opportunity to sponsor an animal monthly. And all of that is a huge help for what we're doing.
What if someone has an animal that they're not able to take care of or can't afford the medical bills or something? How does an animal come to be in your care?
So we receive tons of intake requests weekly. We do have an intake or a surrender form on our website. So if somebody has an animal they're struggling with, we try to focus specifically on the rehab or medical cases because that's just the niche. It's the heart of what we do. And we try to remember always that that's our mission. If it's an animal that we can't necessarily help or that just is looking for a great home, we work with a huge network of other rescues that we can vet them and help them. So if we can't help, we can certainly put them in the right direction.
Well, I'd like to talk with you both a little bit about just marketing, branding, social media. Is that okay if we go over a few questions with those next?
Sure.
So, just in the time that we've worked with you, Fran, you've redesigned and kind of reinvented the Montgomery Sky Farm website twice now, I believe, um, which speaks a lot to, you said you always have a lot going on, but I think it speaks a lot to your vision and your energy because that's a big project, right? It's not just color changes or, the few updates here and there. It's evident in our work with you that, every detail is important. You want to make sure you have the best foot forward, not only to your community, but to, any, cold call visitors or blind visitors, that come. What usually signals to you that it's time for a refresh rather than just sticking with, status quo?
think for us, it's understanding that change and growth is inevitable. And that means that you have to be willing to adapt and change as your mission evolves. And so just really being open to understanding what we're trying to do, the mission that we want to stand behind. Clarity has been a huge reason that we have revamped the website as we've grown. Just helping our customers navigate or our guests navigate who we really are, what we're doing, and making sure that the website is as intentional as what the mission of the farm is.
How do you keep your brand visually fresh while staying true to your core values?
I think being constantly open to constructive criticism is huge. We have a great team of friends who we have coined our marketing team. They all come from different backgrounds, but they have certainly helped us evolve and just are always looking out for us in a way that is critical but constructive so we can continue to grow. We don't know everything or the trends of everything. Social media is a bear to navigate. And so having people you can rely on who really understand what you're trying to do is huge. But also being able to say, how we've done it or how we've showcased it maybe isn't the best way. And how can we be better? And so just really being open to constantly having change or comments be made certainly helps a lot. And sometimes it's from guests who will suggest, this was really tough to navigate. It would be awesome if we could do it this way. And just being open and honest with ourselves that we don't know everything. So sometimes that requires expert help like you all.
Sometimes criticism is a gift that you can grow with. So.
Besides criticism or being able to accept criticism, what advice would you give someone who feels like their website or their brand is starting to feel dated?
Gosh. I don't know. I feel like a huge part of it is staying true to who you are. I think there's a lot of trends out there. You follow social media and you might see things that work for other people that maybe don't work for you, but really finding the folks who have your best interest in mind is huge. Um, and really just, I don't know, staying true to yourself.
Yeah, you definitely don't want your message to get diluted. Um, I mentioned, you keep those blinders on and try not to stray too much from the mission and vision that you had initially, but you grow with time and change. Because if you don't, you become irrelevant.
Well, you touched on social media a little bit, and I think it's especially hard for farms and ranches and breeders to find kind of their niche among all the options on social media. What platforms have worked best for you and why?
I would say Instagram has been our strongest platform, primarily because it's so in the moment, it's so immediate. It's so easy for people to connect and send messages and make comments. Our audience is the largest on Instagram, but I think if we've learned anything from our social media friends, people or professionals in that industry, it's that diversifying um, the platforms is huge too. And so we use a platform for our newsletter offerings, which help reach a different audience that maybe Instagram doesn't. Facebook, of course, is huge. So
I feel like one thing that you all do a really great job at externally are your photos. You have great photos of the food, of the farm, of the animals, the events, and they definitely tell a story. So I imagine that you're planning that content very intentionally and, trying to leverage a lot of those moments.
we definitely do a decent amount of planning. But I will say a lot of it is just spur of the moment too. It's capturing those really unique moments, especially being a farm means that it's not always planned. Taylor might be picking something really cool out of the ground, or might be working on a sauce that's beautiful, or an animal might be galloping around. So we do a fair amount of planning, but a lot of it is organic too.
So I think, again, for a lot of folks who have similar passions to you all, being on their phone or having technology with them is kind of the last thing they want, to do. They want to enjoy the animals or enjoy the scenery or enjoy their hands in the dirt. What would be your advice for someone who feels overwhelmed by social media? What's one thing that they could start doing tomorrow that would help their brand?
You can field that one, Fran. Fran is really, really good with the social media, um, and you said that a lot of people just want to enjoy the animals and be out there and plant and cook and that's me. So when it comes to that side of our operation, it takes a creative and very detail oriented mind like Fran's to go in that direction. It's we know uh, what my strengths are and my weaknesses, and she fills in. We play off each other, uh, and that partnership has been just it wouldn't be what it is today if we didn't have the partnership. So
But I think people need to remember to just be yourself, not try to be anybody else. Social media these days is so much about trends. And I think it's really more a matter of show who you are, be honest, be real. And that'll take you a whole lot further than trying to be like everybody else.
So what's coming next for Montgomery Sky Farm and Final Run Rescue?
Gosh, I think we're always looking at very intentional ways to expand. And
I think we had 84 culinary or chef's table inquiries within 48 hours of actually getting that nod from James Beard. So uh,
strategic growth is on the horizon,
yeah.
how to best navigate it. And as we grow, how do we grow in a way that we don't lose ourselves is the biggest thing. So that's currently the task at hand.
Is there anything that you're dreaming about now that wasn't even on your radar when you started?
Yeah, giant commercial, beautiful kitchen that I can, right now, some of the challenges are being able to keep up with, everything, but the demand for these culinary events. And, what we're looking at now is to grow our infrastructure so we can, handle the business that's coming in.
Well, I feel like we covered a lot today, but you guys also do a lot every day. So we had, a good amount of topics to talk about. But what haven't I asked you about, or what haven't you touched on that you would really like anyone listening to know?
Oh boy.
That it's a process. It doesn't happen in a week. You see us, we've been chipping at it for 7 years now, so 7 almost 8 years, and we're not there yet. I don't know if we'll ever be completely caught up. But that's what we love and what we love doing. And if you can deal with the overwhelming responsibility of being on a farm and trying to diversify and create a business that you enjoy and that you have a vision for, then go for it.
Exactly. I think that that's the root of it all is if you have something you love, if you're passionate about something, chase it. Even if people tell you it's a pipe dream, it'll never happen, you'll never make money. If you love something, if you believe in something, push towards it because anything is possible if you're willing to work hard at it.
That's why we say the sky's limitless. And we just keep pushing.
Well, tell our listeners how they can follow along, visit the farm, attend events, support the rescue. Give us all the handles and the URLs and everything.
So I think most importantly is our beautiful website, thanks to you all. If you're looking for a way to revamp your website, Hired Hands is an incredible team. Although I think this week they're probably like, we've had enough of Fran's updates. But www.montgomeryskyfarm.com is our main website. It is our home base for pretty much everything. You will find a link to our rescue, www.finalrunrescue.org, and our largest social media platforms, Instagram and Facebook. It's just at Montgomery Sky Farm. If you want to follow along with Taylor and his culinary wizard skills, he is at Keep Pushing Chef. And then we do have our newsletter, which you can find also on our beautiful website. It'll pop up. You'll see Millie, the orange cow, her beautiful face. And that allows you to sign up for the newsletter to stay up to date with all of our offerings too. So
thank you both so much for sharing your story. It was a powerful example of how intention and land and food and care can all work together without losing any clarity or purpose. So we really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day.